to the SMITE Circuit playoffs. It's Finch and Aggro here this time as we're moving over to the North American sides of things, I would say here this time. We're still in those circuit playoffs, obviously, but now we're going to take a look at Baskin and the boys here up against Gone to Tahiti. Now, Aggro, I really want your genuine thoughts on this one. I mean, obviously, I think we favor Baskin and the boys, but I expect this one to be pretty close.
I don't know, man. I think Baskin and the boys have been looking really good so far. I think that this team is really continuing to gel and get better. Now, they did have to make a change with hi-rez being banned, and they picked up Uzi, who's been around in the North American SML solo lane for a long, long time. Former teammate of mine. I know Uzi is the type of dude who can just slot into just about any team really well. He's really, really good at following the leader, and I think that that's what all he really has to do here for Baskin and the boys. And then Gone to Tahiti have their work cut out for them here in this one.
It's not going to be easy. The good news is for Gone to Tahiti that this is that double elimination format, obviously for both North America and EU. So even if you drop here, you still get a chance to make your way up through that loser's bracket and eventually still compete in that finals where there will be a one-game advantage, if I'm not mistaken. And this Gone to Tahiti roster certainly does not have unfamiliar names, right? Even though they're coming from the open circuit. I mean, Diesel, Cope, Mollusk, Commando, these are guys that you certainly should know here at this point, but they are trying to compare up against some of the best. It's not just Baskin. I mean, Mass, I think for a while was considered one of the very top tier junglers when he was playing at that SPL level. They certainly do have a tall task here ahead of them.
And no doubt. I mean, that's what's so good about Baskin and the boys is that it really is not just Baskin, though sometimes that's all you need. I think that your highlight of Mask is really, really perfect because people forget how good Mask has been in his career. Mask has an argument to being the best North American jungler of all time. I mean, this dude is an absolute monster in that jungle position, and if he can continue to get those balls rolling, I mean, he is likely the best NA jungler at ever snowballing early leads. It's why his Ratatosker has been so feared throughout his career. That's Mask's style. And then you've got the late game coming through with Baskin often in that mid lane. When Baskin and the boys struggle, I think it's often those side lanes. And that's why hi-rez was such a big pickup for them because he was so rock solid there. If Uzi can continue that same consistency, I think that's going to be really good for them. And it's really making sure that that duo lane of Meerkat and Gino is able to transition into those late game team fights. Because this Baskin and the boys team usually does like to play the early game pretty slow more often than not.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be the case. And I feel like we don't quite give Gino as much credit as he has earned at times either. He's been a very consistent lower-level support player. He's one of the ones that I thought was going to get called up, right around the start of this last season or so. It didn't quite go that way for him. I don't know if that's where his priority is, but he certainly plays at that level. And really, truly, at the end of the day, these guys really just need to flank Baskin, perhaps just to straight up the best to ever touch the game. Not a whole lot of people are going to argue with you on that case. And I think that he's done it in multiple roles, man. He's so flexible. It feels as if he's able to be the best at SMITE sort of as an afterthought sometimes. This dude's just that good. I mean, he really, truly is.
I mean, the memes are there for a reason about this guy for sure. So you shouldn't be doubting him at all. I just think that if Baskin and the boys get to mid to late game, they almost always are able to take it. It's when they get pressured out in mid and in duo particularly that they can struggle. So, and you know that any team led by Mollusk, who's in the jungle here for Gone to Tahiti, is going to look to play aggressively in the early game. That's where Mollusk has found all of his success as a player, is snowballing early leads. So if I'm Gone to Tahiti, I'm trying to pick things that get aggressive early. Like, so help me if I see a Kali pick for Mollusk in this set. Don't give me any of that. I want warriors in the jungle. I want warriors in duo lane if you want to do that. I mean, just early pressure, I think, is the name of the game here for this SOC team.
Yeah, to me, Mollusk is kind of the definition of high variance, right? We have seen high end from him that has made me be like, well, why isn't this guy playing in the SPL all the time if he plays this well? Because also you see some games from him where Mollusk can he can be invisible, more than invisible, a detriment. And I think it's because of exactly what you said. He likes to play for that early game. It's such a volatile point of the game. It's not a reflection of his skill. It's because the point in the game in which he's best is the same point where if a mistake does happen, it can feel like there's no way to come back. I think it's really just a result of that.
Exactly. That's just the way that he's always played the game. He likes to take high-risk plays. He likes to – I mean, he thinks he's going to make the perfect mechanical outplay every time,
Right.
which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, when you're trying to do it against Baskin, maybe not so much. But for the most part, you'd rather have your jungler have that sort of mindset that they are going to outplay everybody all the time than trying to instill some confidence in them. And Mollusk has never been lacking for confidence. I think that that's really where this team is going to have to lean on, is that – jungle pressure in the early game that I would anticipate them picking.
They're absolutely going to need it if they want to try and stop Baskin and the boys. And in that same regard, Mollusk not going about that alone, going to be sort of lining up alongside Sops in that mid lane, who's probably drawn the hardest card in trying to line up against Baskin. You don't always necessarily get pressured out of lane, so to speak, but you can certainly get out farmed. You can certainly get put into a position where now that mid laner has pressure, they can rotate more than you. Their jungler can back them up looking for ganks. It could potentially be trouble for them there in that middle lane, as we're just about ready to hop into those picks and bans.
I think that's a good point there, Finch, because with Cope Baby there as support as well, traditionally a jungler for most of his career, a little bit in solo lane when he played in the SPL. How efficient is he going to be with his farming? Is he going to be oversharing? You know that the enemy team's going to funnel Baskin. They do every single game. He's going to take all the farm that he possibly can. So can you put Sops in a position to still succeed while not setting the rest of your team too far behind? Those are things that usually take a long time for a team to really gel together, is how we're playing the map, how much farm we're giving to each member of the team so that we're in a good spot to succeed.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that a team like maybe Sanguine in the SPL has kind of gotten down pat, right? We're always wondering to ourselves, how has Shinto found a way to get this far ahead or something like that? Well, we know how, and it's because of the way that team plays, the way they prioritize who gets what. And so that's the same thing that's going to be a question here for Gone to Tahiti. Are they ready to prove that they've got that figured out up against the best of the best here in the SCC? And that's exactly who they're going up against. Right away, though, all these bans, really standard top meta picks, right? Except for this new wall, perhaps. But you definitely don't want to deal with Heimdall, Persephone, or Hell.
And a lot of these are aimed towards that mid lane. Every ban so far for Tahiti is towards Baskin in that mid lane. I like the idea of taking the Nuwa away. It's a good throwaway ban. Just something that is strong, but you're not going to first pick, that can be a little bit annoying to play against. I think that Baskin and the boys are definitely in the right vein when it comes to banning things like Nuwa and like Hunbats. And now their options are pretty wide open at the top of the draft.
They should be able to go just about wherever they want. We've seen a lot of things like Hercules getting prioritized, a lot of these aggressive warrior types. Looks like it is going to be something relatively similar, but not exactly Hercules. Going to be the Nike getting picked up. This works as a great flex picks for them. It could go into the jungle or over to the solo lane and do pretty well and play very differently in either one of those roles. So really not giving a lot away by taking this early.
Yeah, I agree, and we know that Uzi likes this pick. If you watch his streams at all, Nike's one of those gods that he plays quite a bit, but Mask played it a ton earlier on this year in the jungle, so I think that this is a strong flex pick here for Baskin and the boys, but it's also a really good transformation for the Morrigan. So I like that pick here by Tahiti. They also take one of the picks that Meerkat has gone to very consistently in this Jingwei. So even though Baskin and the boys probably pretty happy with their top pick, I like the responses here by the SOC team.
Now, this looks smart from Gone to Tahiti, the way they've gone with it so far. Take away one of those safest options from Meerkat. I want to make sure that I don't sell my boy Meerkat out too low here. He's certainly a strong player, but I think it would be fair to say that he is one of those question marks on an otherwise strong roster. So making sure that he can't get through this laning phase for free with something like a Jingwei, always smart. So on the other side, the Amaterasu and the Ganesh come through. This is a little bit early to be making these picks because I feel like this takes away some of the flex from Nike. But if you can get Amaterasu and Ganesh and then just fill in some carries later, you're never going to complain.
Ganesh is probably Gino's best god, so getting that for him really early is a really good idea. And the Ama, it still is some flex potential. I mean, it's Nike Ama in jungle and solo, but you don't really know exactly which way Baskin and the boys are going to go. That does give you at least some sort of extra advantage, but even if they were to say, hey, we're putting Nike jungle, we're putting Ama solo, who cares? I mean, this Ama is so good at chasing down the Morrigan. She goes into stealth, you press 4, it covers such a wide area, she's going to get revealed anyways, and she's got no mobility to get away from you. It is, again, a good Morrigan transformation, but I don't think that you can really concern yourself too much with that. I think that you're going to pick what you're going to pick And if it happens to be good transforms, then it happens to be pretty good. I think outside of things like Terra, I would probably be a little bit hesitant to pick Terra against the Morrigan. Otherwise, I think I'm just picking what I want, and whatever she gets, she gets.
Just got to bite the bullet, be the better Nike or Ama. Maybe he's going to have to be the call here in this one. But you're right, man. Amaterasu brings so much to the table, and it's not particularly sneaky, right? So you might as well just go ahead and go with it up front and not worry too much about it. To catch up with these bans a little bit, the Merlin and the Xbalanque banned by Gone to Tahiti, so they certainly recognize they got to get some of those really strong carries out of there. Meanwhile, going straight towards those hyper carry assassins are Baskin and the boys. And this is what you were saying. You didn't think it would be these late game hyper carries, it'd be someone who'd be active a bit more early, and that's exactly what Robin is.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at those bans because I think that it's exactly what we were talking about. That's not the identity that Mollusk teams usually have. So you ban out Dodgy and Kali, I think you would have been pretty happy to see Mollusk pick those selections and let you get to where you are the strongest, which is in that late game. But if Ho Yi was on the table, that's a pick that Meerkat wanted, then I can understand wanting to take away the Dodgy.
Right.
No inherent DC immunity there, so that can be a problem for him. Maybe they were hoping that they could get something else like Thoth that, again, Dodgy really does play well against. So that ban is making more sense to me as we see the draft round out here for Baskin and the boys, but I still don't think that they should have been that intimidated by something like the Kali.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe a chance to try and take a little bit more of that early game off the table, but this is now a scary draft Baskin and the boys have. It's a nightmare for me to think of Baskin, who's already better than me, getting to hit me from further away than I can contemplate on something like a Thoth, man. This gives him all kinds of options to be mobile, to do damage in the back line, and then to allow the rest of that team to be that frontline bulwark for him.
Yeah, I think that Baskin and the boys have a really strong draft. It's a ton of AoE, good CC, good damage across the board. It's not great early, but with this Nike in the jungle, I think it does carry a little bit of weight there. And their late game is absolutely nuts. On the other side, I think that the frontline presence out of the Sobek and the Kuzenbo is going to be strong here for Tahiti, but overall, I think that their level of execution has to be a lot higher here. I mean, they've got things that are a little bit harder to execute on than the team that is already more established anyways in Baskin and the boys.
Not always a winning recipe as we start to move into game number 1 here in NA.
Always appreciated. Finch and Aggro, it's Dolson and Mifflin on the call for Baskin and the boys versus Gone to Tahiti. And you in chat, make sure to vote on who you think is going to win this big matchup. Maybe just by virtue of Baskin being on one of the teams that will sway your vote one way or the other. And Mifflin, maybe it sways your vote here in this engagement as well.
You know what? I'll go ahead and make a prediction about chat before I share my own. I'm going to say at least 90% of chat's going to go ahead and side with B&B. And I'm not going to fault them. Count me in it
now, right?
No, they want those
now.
points.
Yeah, yes. That's true, but you look at this matchup. Go ahead. Break down the drafts for me, though.
Let's take a quick gander at it. B&B got exactly what they're known for every step of the way. When I think of Baskin, I think of two gods. I think of Thoth, and I think of Scylla. He got the Thoth. Meerkat's playing a semi-aggressive hunter that's not really up his alley. It's more along the lines of X-Ball and Jingwei when you think of him. But when it fits into his draft, he's got that huge Raining Sun that's going to synergize incredibly well with the Ganesh. Mass is going to play an Initiator along with Uzi, and Uzi with that Nike passive going to make Baskin stronger in the late game. What's better than Baskin? Baskin with a passive buff. That's about as good as you want from the order side. And then you take a peek over at Gone to Tahiti. Sure, they've got this early game aggression out of the jungle inside of this Robin, but the rest of their team comp isn't going to be able to match that level of aggression. Sobek in solo has fantastic kill potential with his lane partner, but his follow-up on Robin damage, not nearly as much as you would expect from maybe even something like a Ymir or a Jingshen or a more aggressive warrior support. The Kuzenbo is very nice and is going to work really well with their draft, but putting him over in the solo lane means that we're probably not going to see him until around level 15. Gone to Tahiti drafted for the early inside their jungler, nowhere else.
And then you start to look at that kind of conversation, I think, where Gone to Tahiti have drafted. Early rotation, though, from Mast on the Amaterasu. Over to the long lane, it's Cope who now has to make his way out. Silenced down by Mast, but the dash defensively is enough to save first blood. Can you say the same over in the solo lane? My goodness, Uzi, within an inch of his life, stays alive. Your prediction's slightly wrong there, Mifflin. It was 88% for Baskin and the boys. I think there were maybe some spite votes there or some sway votes just to get it beneath that 90%. I don't think those votes are misplaced. But look at what we've already seen. That's a level 3 ganked from Mast here on this Amaterasu.
I like it. He's matching the pressure that he's expecting to see from Mollusk. Unfortunately for Mast, he doesn't get anything off of that gank, so he's going to fall slightly behind in terms of XP. But when you're playing against another warrior like that, falling behind half a level, it's not nearly as big a deal as it is if you're playing double assassin jungles, where you have to really worry about, okay, we're looking for the late game, we're trying to scale into it, I got to get there at least on par with my enemy component. With Robin, you're not worried about that. You think to yourself, well, the whole thing Robin's going for is this early game pressure. If I can alleviate that by dealing it myself, you're done your job already.
Do you find some surprise, though, and we've sort of talked about the picks bans, the drafts, maybe the way they've fallen is more interesting to look at now, especially seeing how Uzi is, well, being bullied out a little bit here in the short lane over on the solo side of the map. Interested at all in the Nike being the solo laner rather than the Amaterasu?
I think that it is interesting in that they knew that this Kuzenbo was likely going to go towards that solo lane, so sending Nike over there, it's not a great matchup. He's got ways to deal with your channeled abilities, he's got fantastic poke. Nike's a god in solo that's always looking to at least trade with the enemies, looking to deal its own damage, as is Kuzenbo, except he brought a homie, and also he's reflecting your own damage. So just inside of that, I'm not surprised to see how that lane is going. The Ama jungle is interesting in that you could have had a lot more pressure with the Nike.
There is an attempted pluck by Cope over on the Meerkat, but a nice time to Bede's going to save his life. Sentinel of Zeus pulled back by Mando Warrior. A couple more auto attacks will get it done, and Uzi, despite nearly falling just a few moments ago, is going to knock down first blood for Baskin and the boys. The opposite of what you want to start here if you're gone to Tahiti.
Yeah, my man said, Haddix who? This is Uzi Town now. I like it. He backs twice before we see Mando Warrior back even once. So he had the potion advantage, he had the power advantage, he had the full Warrior Tabi there for that engagement and immediately leverages it and tries to force a fight. He gets away with it. Now first blood going his way, there's just about no way Mando Warrior is going to be able to come back in that lane short of a gank. We're probably going to see the runic shield come out from this Nike. That damage output that Mando was able to use to force out Uzi, it's not going to be nearly as impactful.
Well, looking for a blue buff invade, might have gotten some of the creeps, but unable to lock down the buff itself. And it is Blink for Mando Warrior, locked in for his first relic, so teleport, a small differential there, and really evening up the level difference over in the solo lane. Some action here in the mid lane as Mollusk looks to find some sort of advantage, maybe some presence here early in this game, but mid lane, maybe not it when Baskin can poke you from that far away.
Yeah, don't walk through Baskin's lane without a plan. My man took away 50% of your health as an afterthought. He didn't care. He still got the wave pressure. He still forced Mollusk back. And now Mollusk is going to have to go back to base, whereas he could have farmed up a little bit more safely, maybe looked for a duo gank. And now Mando in some trouble.
He's going to take a tower shot or two for that. Uzi has a Sentinel of Zeus. Not sure the slow connected there on Mando. One final shot and realizing there's no escape there. Mando's going to solo die for the second time now this game. Gino rotating over for just a little insurance with a potential counter gank for Gone to Tahiti. Now you've got this Kuzenbo 0-2, 6 minutes into the game. Uzi on this Nike and get some of those kills rolling nonetheless.
So, something about Kuzenbo from behind, I'm going to be completely blatant with it. He's awful. The whole strength of Kuzenbo is that when he's ahead, he's going to go sit on top of the enemy mage or whoever's doing the most damage on the enemy team, and he's going to throw his little nene at him and auto attack and reflect damage and just be that huge displacement factor, that deterrent from you trying to move up. Kuzenbo from behind is going to try and do the exact same thing, except he's going to die for it.
There is an ultimate from Meerkat over here onto Diesel. No rotation from either jungler there, but look at the shot from Baskin. Connects in the final one there onto Sops, unable to escape the onslaught of damage. That's going to pick up an assist from Mast as well. Bad to worse for Gone to Tahiti all over the map here. Stunned down onto Diesel. Meerkat not choosing to use his jump just yet. Better off forward as Cope rotating back over to the long lane here. But talk about that big play. Baskin finds himself a kill over in the mid.
Man, Do I have to talk about it? I mean, it's Baskin. It's exactly what we expect. He does it perfectly to chime it off of Sop's D-transform, finds the root, gets the follow-up damage. It's a clean play. He had some help around. Someone lands the assist. Mass does, but Mass didn't really deal any of the damage there. That's 100% Baskin. Now we're looking at a 1-level lead in mid. We're looking at a 2-level lead in the solo lane. Those are 2 lanes now that are going to be almost off the table for Mollusk to gank without any assistance. I mean, for sure, we're not going to see Nike die to a gank. You might be able to find Baskin.
Well, Cope might just die to a gank here, but it is Mollusk who's rotating through. Meerkat has to use the up-down. Won't find the return kill himself this time. The Gone to Tahiti jungler able to rotate over, find a kill for his team. Baskin there to poke down some good damage as well. So 1 for none for the red side of things, and maybe call that a small win, especially getting this Robin involved in these fights.
There's no worse lane to lose than duo lane in the early, so that's kind of a good factor for Gone to Tahiti here. If you have to choose just one lane to win, it should be duo. That's the lane that you can get the Gold Fury through, you can get more invades a lot more easily. It's much easier for a team to concentrate their effort towards invading a purple buff or invading a red than it is moving into the enemy jungle's speed buff or blue buff, because that removes you from such a huge contention point on the map. So if Mollusk continues to run it down duo, maybe gets one more clean gank off, puts Meerkat down, that's one way for Gone to Tahiti to get back in through objectives.
And it really seemed like a moment there, or for a moment there, that Baskin and the boys were going to be able to pick up a kill in the long lane. So a big swing that not only Gone to Tahiti escape that onslaught alive, but they also get themselves a kill. It's Mast rotating deep, or somewhat deep into the Gone to Tahiti side of the jungle. Golden Blade first item overall for the Amaterasu there, the jungle Amaterasu. Does that make some sense to you, the route that Mast has started going?
Yeah, it's going to make clearing out those jungle buffs a lot more easy. She's not going to have to use the abilities, so ganks are going to be a lot easier to come by. A lot of times in jungle, you'll try and clear out a buff, maybe you have to use your abilities on it, so you can't really look for that instant gank. Not an issue with Golden Blade.
As he's rotating over as well, a couple kills in tow. The up-down connects, so does the Sentinel of Zeus way too slow on the backline. Is Gone to Tahiti. Sops will transform and drop down his own ultimate as well underneath the tier 1 tower, but Baskin has sniped down Cope elsewhere. Mast returns the damage for another kill. Baskin and the boys, they complete the 2-sided tier 1 tower dive. They might get the tower, but they definitely have a couple of kills.
You know what? I think Baskin picked up some tips and tricks with his time with the Ghost Boys during playoffs, because this is looking like a completely Ghost playstyle. B&B are just running it down.
Yeah, this is exactly kind of that mindset that we see out of a team like Ghost in the SPL, and especially when on the desk, you know, a lot of what they assumed that Gone to Tahiti needed to do was take the fight to Baskin and the boys in the early game. Baskin and the boys like that mid to late scaling. They're so confident in playing around their carries that that's where Baskin and the boys thrive. So seeing this early lead balloon up to around 2,000 gold, 10.5 minutes into this game, brutal for Gone to Tahiti, especially when you consider where those kills are. The jungler for Baskin and the boys is going to rotate through. Diesel now having to airstrike his way away, but now there's solo potential in the long lane. Seems like everywhere is just a losing battle for the red side.
They're going to have to do something big to make a comeback here. My eyes are almost always going to be glued to Mollusk now. He's the only one that's got a slash line on the board for his team. He's the only one that's been able to turn a fight around, and he's also got a slight level lead in the jungle still. Mask getting caught out, Sops on the aggression.
There's a nice double silence, dazzling offensive, one more shot onto Sops, and down goes the Morgan. That's a 2v1 turnaround for the Baskin and the boys jungler. One more pluck from Cope, but Mollusk not close enough to follow up just yet. It actually might be the Sobek that's caught out now as Gino rotates his way over from the mid lane. Has the Dharmic Pillars if need be, but it looks like the 1 for none, and Baskin and the boys will be happy with it should they not choose to chase any further.
If they deal just a little bit more damage and can guarantee that they're forced to back up here, B&B can easily back up to the Gold Fury Basket. That's insane, dude. He doesn't die, but the mental damage is there. If I'm Diesel, I've emotionally checked out at this point, because that's insane that he hits that.
Yeah, I'm thinking, no way he's going to actually go for this, right? And then you realize who it is, and of course he's going to go for it. It nearly snipes you down. One more auto attack prior in that fight. Likely would have gotten it done there. It's the TKO for Baskin. Not a kill on the board, but forces Sops back nonetheless. Gold Fury just getting warded up a bit here. Look at Baskin and the boys' control on this top side of the jungle right around that Fury Pit. Maybe looking for a fight forward, but it won't be just for the moment. But you can sense that Baskin and the boys are going to attempt this Fury here shortly.
It's just this constant pressure. Now God and Tahiti have to respond to it. They've got the solo laner ahead on the rotation, but it's burning way too fast.
Down it goes for Baskin and the boys. Dharmic Pillar's there just for a little bit of insurance. Maybe looking for a fight now. Mast has not had the chance to go back to base just yet. Dazzling offensive back up, but right back down goes the jungler. Mollusk continuing on the chase as Baskin has chipped him down. About half HP. Gino is going to be left alone here. A couple of kills now for Gone to Tahiti, and Meerkat is going to get plucked against the wall nonetheless. Cope now full-on retreat mode as Baskin has rejoined the fray, and it looks like maybe a 2 for none if Baskin and the boys choose to go no further, but of course they do. You got a 201 Nike rotating through. Make it 3 now as Sops goes down, and look at the aggression, Mifflin, from Baskin and the boys on this chase.
Baskin's been this entire time, but he doesn't care.
What? He's still there.
keeps eking out just enough mana to deal the damage that they need. Was a clean chase from Gone to Tahiti after the Gold Fury. BNB overstayed just a little bit, going for that red buff. Had they given it up, they should have been able to disengage cleanly. And then Gone to Tahiti, just with a little bit too much confidence, do the exact same and stick around too long, turning what was a decent swing back in their favor as far as XP goes, now cleanly a huge win for BNB.
Yeah, it's those big swings in a moment where you're Gone to Tahiti, everything has been levied against you this entire game. You're thinking maybe this is a moment to get us back in. You can even see on the gold charts there a small little downward peak, but immediately spikes back up for Baskin and the boys. Could get worse. Cope is going to have to tail spin, find a little knock up there onto Gino, no further. Baskin has now been able to go back, locked in the Chronos Pendant, Divine Ruin as well. You talk about this thought that you want to kind of get some scaling into the mid to late game. He's already there, Mifflin, 14 minutes in.
Yeah, Divine Ruin online early on. His damage output has been absolutely crippling. With the Hieroglyphic Assault, he's doing 50% of Mollusk's health bar every single time. From a longer range than Mollusk can engage from him, so no one's going to be able to return damage onto Baskin. Now the whole goal for Gone to Tahiti is to somehow find their way into the back line, but BNB have drafted around that. Uzi on this Nike and Mast on this Ama. Good luck getting through those two.
Yeah, there's so much utility, it seems, for Baskin and the boys, whether to engage or to disengage or peel, potentially, depending on what the moment calls for. Solo lane has not gotten any easier for Mando Warrior. 2 levels down now onto Uzi. Mollusk rotates through, but ever escapable, I suppose, is this Nike. Will leap out, but the Totem of Kub, the small victory there for Gone to Tahiti, taken down. But you talk about leaving this Kuzumbo alone now in this lane, it's going to get brutal, and as such, Mollusk still hovering around on the right side of the map.
Yeah, this laning phase is not long for this world. BNB have established such a large XP and gold lead at this point that if they decide to group up as a 5-man death ball, or even just a 2-man death ball, as long as Baskin's one of the two, Gone to Tahiti, they're going to have to respond somewhere on the map. Pyromancer now in everyone's sights, except for Gone to Tahiti. They might be looking towards the left lane for a gank, or they're just caught unaware.
There's another 1v1 in the long lane, but Diesel takes one too many shots and will back himself off. Pyromancer locked down for Baskin and the boys. Rotation back behind Meerkat in play now by Cope as purple buff is respawning. Won't really result in much. It is a relatively even long lane there, though, Miff. When you look at what Diesel's been able to do, been under the eye of Meerkat maybe a couple of times, but getting this Jing Wei into a position to maybe scale is maybe one of the big win conditions now for Gone to Tahiti.
It's certainly one of the best looks they've got. As far as XP deficit and gold deficit, it's really Diesel that's the only one who's able to keep par with his lane counterpart. But it's going to be hard for him to find the damage when you have Thoth staring down the barrel of a gun literally 300 yards away, dealing damage to you at your tier 2 tower from red buff. I mean, when Baskin's playing like this, I can't put too much stock in Diesel.
That's true, especially given a point that we talked about just a few moments ago prior to a little short lane fighting, rather, with the engage potential that Baskin and the boys have. It's been kind of laid out in front of us time and time again this game. A Dharmic Pillar sets up a fight, masked with a dazzling offensive is there as well. A Sentinel of Zeus. I mean, literally everyone on Baskin and the boys has the ability to start something up. And Gone to Tahiti might not have all the tools they require to fully disengage. It's a Fury respawn in 30 seconds. That's maybe where these teams start to look, especially it's looking like the Oni Fury for Baskin and the boys that'll be respawning here soon. That's a big one to find a little extra lane pressure as it looks like the solo lane tier 1 tower might go down here as well.
Take a peek at Gone to Tahiti's relics. They're all looking at Blink. We see a lot of selfish relic usage here, and Sobek hasn't hit level 12 yet. Compared to BNB, you've got Shell, you have got a Frenzy, you've got all sorts of things that are going to help out the entire squad. Gone to Tahiti just doesn't have the same tool.
Well, maybe it's Cope rotating all the way around is going to lock down Baskin. Not this time. Dazzling offensive used defensively. That's a good up-down from Mollusk. Maybe finding the kill here. That's an opening kill for Gone to Tahiti, but how about the fight after? Cannot forget Baskin's got a 2-level lead over his mid lane counterpart. Dharmic Pillars Mifflin's going to keep this fight going right inside that Sentinel of Zeus as well. Baskin has done a good job melting down some damage, shows the front line of Baskin and the boys. This is pretty telling here. Despite a 1-kill advantage, it's Baskin and the boys still on the offensive, and they might find themselves a kill onto Mollusk. An up-down from Meerkat. The silence there is enough. Meerkat does finish off the kill, but they've left Baskin alone on the backside of the engagement. All in all, it's a 2-for-1 trade for Gone to Tahiti.
2 for 1, but no objectives just yet. And with the health bars as they are, I don't imagine this Gold Fury is going to go down before we see Mast respawn, before we see Baskin back in the fray. Cope a little bit left alone towards the Gold Fury, might be forced out here. I like what we're seeing from BNB. They're continually looking for aggression despite not even winning the initial engagement, and somehow they've been able to eke out small wins the entire time.
That might be it for Mando. Warrior is going to have to pop the ultimate, but Meerkat rings true on his auto attacks. Locked in here with Mass as the Dharmic Pillars up for the second time in just a couple of minutes. We'll get rid of Cope as well. It's these long, drawn-out fights and the certainly sudden, nearly instantly over fights that Baskin and the boys have been winning. It's Gone to Tahiti either overstaying or not really being involved in these fights that have found them losses time and time again, and now it's the Fury locked down for Baskin and the boys. A couple great picks, really opening up the map.
I'd be really excited to see where Baskin and the boys decide to go with this. With Oni minion waves, they could very easily, with the lead they've already established, 6,000 gold, 7,000 experience, they could group up on these waves, likely even take a tier 2 tower despite not having Fire Giant, or they could use this time where they know where God Tahiti has to go. They have to go deal with these Oni minion waves, group up around Fire, start it up a little bit early, see if maybe you can sneak it away while the enemy's detentions are diverted.
I mean, they've taken 4v5 fights, so I don't see why a Fire Giant is out of the realm of possibility, and it isn't. Here, taken down to about 10% HP. Great silence on the backside onto Mollusk. And that FG is absolutely melted. Mast looking for the dazzling offensive. It's good CC immunity from Mollusk to disengage from this fight. Diesel is starting to swing here. Got a 2-level lead over Mast, but Meerkat's here to play as well. He's frontlining now. As Gone to Tahiti is going to find the opening pick. Down goes Meerkat as Sops grabs himself a double kill. This needs to be the disengage from Baskin and the boys. You got 3 members left with that FG buff. They're going to stay alive here as they're going to make their way back to their own side of the map.
Yeah, BNB was seeing red after that Fire Giant. Meerkat shouldn't have been that far up. I understand that he wants to help Mass, but you got to be worried about Sops in that stealth. Immediately loses 50% of his health bar, transforms into Ama, finishes up the fight, finds himself a clean double. But 3 members with Fire Giant on the side of BNB, and you know what? I'll say those are probably some of the best members you're going to have on it. Gino's going to be able to tank up these towers incredibly well. Uzi's dive potential is only going to get higher. And that damage that was crippling from afar, now it's going to be murderous from afar, from Baskin.
Well, you still have the XP differential being a big factor here. Only 1 member of this game has found themselves to level 20, and that's Uzi. A couple members still trying to catch themselves up. Quick pause to catch our breaths, and maybe Gone to Tahiti needs to do so as well. It's Uzi first to reach that level 20 mark, as I'm saying there. So things still could get a lot worse, especially now that Baskin and the boys are going to get those respawns through, fully regroup themselves. I'm not sure how confident you're feeling at this point in defending any of these towers if you're Gone to Tahiti. Maybe it's Phoenix line defense or bust.
I think I might be willing to say that Gone to Tahiti can at least put up a soft defense around the tier 2s. Tier 1s, forfeit. Don't even step up to them. Don't think about it. Those belong to BNB. The tier 2s, you're looking to buy time. You're not really looking to put up a hard defense. You're not going to commit yourself. That's a hill we're not willing to die on, but you can at least return a little bit of damage. Target out the people that don't have Fire Giant buff. Make them return to base. Get some TKOs, and just buy some time for your Phoenixes. Short of that, the defense from Gone to Tahiti is relatively weak. Their mage isn't the best at keeping minion waves out. The long-range poke isn't nearly as strong as what Baskin's bringing, or even what an Agni or Nuwa could do. Sops is fully committed on finding that stealth stun and then blowing someone up. That's not going to be nearly as easy to do when all 5 members of each team are going to be stacked up on each other.
Yeah, Sops was able to find a double kill a few moments ago because it was Mast and Meerkat kind of alone after that Fire Giant fight. And Morrigan is still going to do a good bit of damage in those moments. As predicted, Tier 1 tower falls without defense from Gone to Tahiti. A couple floater members of Baskin and the boys hanging on the right-hand side of this Tier 2 tower. Mast will make his way back to join the rest of his team. It is Uzi, fully defending off against Sops Mando Warrior here as well. Tier 2 tower down in the long lane, and now maybe over to the mid lane here, Mifflin. But it's very difficult, I think, to see a world where Gone to Tahiti are all that comfortable. I mean, for all the reasons you listed, and then some. Also got Baskin now slinging damage at you if you choose to step yourself up. It's kind of a linear fight that you're taking, and Gone to Tahiti might want to take it. Cope melted down, and Meerkat finds the kill. Dharmic Killer's going to get rid of a good bit of health here. Baskin stays alive through it all, enough to return some damage as Mollusk will get the kill there. Up, down, off to the side of the fight, but the blink forward from Mast will be there, and down goes Mollusk. A double kill for the Baskin and the boys jungler. It's a 3-for-1 with only Baskin taking a seat.
I agree with the decision from Gone to Tahiti to just go for the Hail Mary. We have to engage here. Our defense isn't strong. Let's see if we can at least kill somebody. And they do get a priority target, but Sops goes in, or not Sops rather, Cope Baby goes in just a little bit too soon. Blinks in before his team's able to follow up. No damage returns, means that he goes down for free. Doesn't even get the Lurking the Waters off a cooldown there. So he's going to go ahead and just go to the Shadow Realm, not really make any impact besides eating up a couple cooldowns. Tier 2 tower falls for free. Pyromancer as well. BNB can probably continue pushing if they so choose. I imagine we're going to see them go ahead and go back to base and spend up their well-earned gold.
Yeah, we need to start to round out those builds here. A couple members have Gone to Tahiti moving their way towards that level 20 mark. I kind of levy the question to you on maybe where the comfortable defense is here for Gone to Tahiti. You figured what we saw, and that is what ended up happening. Now you look towards this Fire Giant. It'll be respawning here in the next minute or so. Fury back up in the next 15 seconds. Which of those two objectives are you feeling comfortable trying to compete against?
Well, I'm not going to defend Gold Fury just because the opportunity cost there is so high. You go in to defend it, you lose the fight around gold, maybe. You absolutely lose the game off of it. You don't go to gold, they get a little bit more gold and XP over you. That's not a big deal. They're already making 10 times the money you are, and as well as all hit level 20 at this point. Fire Giant, on the other hand, Gone to Tahiti can't really engage inside the jungle. They need that unofficial 6-man inside of a tier 2 tower or a Phoenix. So instead, I would imagine we see someone move up, maybe go for a steal attempt, send Mollusk in. If he gets his blink back in time, he might be able to blink in, ult in, go for a pretty cheeky steal. As far as defense goes, comfortably, it doesn't exist for Gone to Tahiti anymore. They have to keep their eyes on the horizon towards the next game. We're looking at 11,000 gold at this point. I mean, what more can I say than that?
Yeah, what is this, a 99%er for Baskin and the boys? I mean, a lot of it has been the question on how to Gone to Tahiti get into the backline. The answer to our previous question now apparent as Baskin and the boys get themselves a free Fire Giant. Exchange for a tier 1 tower in the long lane and in the mid lane, though. So Gone to Tahiti will pull back a little bit of gold here for themselves, but they've abandoned this right-hand side of the map, and Baskin and the boys seemingly okay with that. It's a teleport forward for Muzzy, will be plucked backwards. Sentinel of Zeus is going to immediately refill that health bar, but Uzzy's just trying to waste some time here. Certainly going to go down, but Sops now looking towards his back. It's a 1 trade for Gone to Tahiti, but have you lost your right side Phoenix? In the meantime, Mifflin might be looking like it.
It definitely does look like it, but the disengage is going to be so hard now. All 5 members stacked up.
Down goes Mast first overall. It's a 3 versus 5 for Baskin and the boys. Full-on retreat mode as Gino goes down as well. Life is short here for Baskin. Looking for the root, won't find it, and Sops has pulled out another kill. Interesting call there for Baskin and the boys. They obviously take down the tier 2 tower here in the right line. Do end up getting the Phoenix as well. But Miff, you've lost 4 and potentially even 5 members of your team here with death timers as long as 30, 45 seconds. Where do you put that on the worth meter?
Going for the right Phoenix, is not entirely worth because we knew that B&B would have likely won the engagement otherwise. But as long as they don't lose out on their own Phoenix in return, or even if they just lose one Phoenix, I'm sure that B&B are absolutely fine with that trade. Sending Uzi towards that tier 2 tower for the defense is an interesting call. They absolutely did it just to buy time. They sent them there. Okay, you're just going to stop their backs. If you stop it for 5 more seconds, we get the Phoenix for free. If you stopped it for even 2 more seconds, they likely would have only lost 1 more member. But Uzi falls incredibly quickly, and then all 5 members of Gone to Tahiti are instantly back to base. Jingwei and Morgan were just so fast with their passives and the stealth to get into that fight before anyone was able to allow to disengage from B&B. But overall, having not lost a Phoenix, not given up Fire Giant, no Gold Fury available for Gone to Tahiti to take, that's a fine trade. That's within the realm of acceptable losses. They're still 8,000 gold ahead. They're still absolutely ahead in their builds. They're all level 20. I'm sure that B&B are absolutely fine with it.
Yeah, the final tally is the tier 2 tower in both the long and short lane. Still mid lane standing strong. No Fury to compete for, so you look at the respawning objectives, all of them down, but you are going to have the fire minions pouring down the right-hand side of the map for Baskin and the boys. If nothing else, obviously some gold moving back to the pockets of Gone to Tahiti, but I think you have to look at levels here as well. After that big change, everyone outside of the support for GTT has reached that level 20 mark there themselves as well. So the XP differential, again, outside of that support role, kind of negligible here at this point. You wonder maybe where the confidence starts to stand for Gone to Tahiti, if that's enough to maybe make you start to engage on some of these fights.
Now that all of the people on Gone to Tahiti are starting to finish those 6 items, we're seeing that Mollusk and Mando are getting a little bit tankier. Some of the damage is starting to come online for the Morgan as well. They might be willing to put up a defense around this Fire Giant, but it's going to be so execution focused. It's not going to be easy. They have so many peel tools to make sure that Baskin doesn't fall easily. Dharmic Pillars are going to come through. Sentinel Zeus. Mask can use the Dazzling Offensive. Meerkat can drop Suns. As long as those are all focused around Baskin, he should be absolutely fine in this engagement. And if Gone to Tahiti decide to engage themselves, that just puts them in danger of the rest of B&B's comp.
Sure, it's been just maybe a little less consistent for Gone to Tahiti so far this game, and might even be an understatement. Despite a 14 to 13 kill tally at this point, there's been a lot of hoping that Cope can just kind of round the backside of these team fights, get in there, find himself a pluck. Maybe Mollusk is able to jump up and down onto Baskin, get himself a kill there. Now Baskin has himself a bubble, so a little extra CC protection there for this Thoth. And an interesting call here nonetheless. Fully grouped up over by this Fury is Baskin and the boys, but Gone to Tahiti want nothing to do with it. All 5 members rotating on this right-hand side of the map. Gino wandering his way beneath the mid lane tier 2 tower. Ultimately, Mythic might be a Fury and then maybe a Phoenix push here for Gone to Tahiti.
If B&B don't get back in time, they could absolutely lose their Phoenix, but it seems like Gone to Tahiti are just trying to push up those fire minion waves, make sure that they have a defensible position around this Fire Giant. Back up, get some wards, you don't have to worry about your right lane anymore. Phoenix is already back alive. This is as close to an even fight as we're going to get. And Gone to Tahiti, they've got tools to deal with it. We've seen now that Sops in jungle fights can maneuver around, find these one-shots on a Meerkat, onto Baskin, immediately turn into a tankier target, and either disengage or keep the fight going depending on how well it's going for GTT. I like their odds if they can make sure that Sops finds a priority target. That said, B&B hasn't made a concentrated effort towards finding Sops yet.
I was going to say, relic-wise, it's an even fight, but now Frenzy has been popped and the Dharmic Pillars are down as well. Baskin also has used the ultimate as he drops down the Sentinel of Zeus. Backline have Gone to Tahiti slowed as Mando Warrior catches a little bit of extra poke damage from Baskin. Fire Giant, of course, locked down in the meantime. Cope underwater and now back in base as Meerkat finds the kill here. That's a double knock-up from Uzi. Right side Phoenix, half HP, and this could be the opening for Baskin and the boys.
It's a free Phoenix. They got the TKO on 4 members, the literal KO on Cope. Now they can group up again, maybe go push it down mid. They've got 40 seconds to work with here. Everyone full health just about on the side of B&B as well. Only ultimates available on the side of Gone to Tahiti are Mollusk, Sops, and Diesel. Mando had to use his to peel for himself, so the engagement here is clean.
Look at the Dharmic Pillars from Gino back off of cooldown. Shell popped by the B&B support as well. Final Judgment being charged, but won't be let loose by Baskin here just yet. 10 seconds left on the respawn by Cope, but no minions, no push for Baskin and the boys here up to this point, all the way back near their tier 2 tower. So here we go again. You've got this right side Phoenix down, but this time maybe the biggest difference maker of all is you've got all 5 members with this Fire Giant buff. Meerkat especially is going to melt these Phoenixes if Baskin and the boys is able to get him in a position to just kind of swing away.
And they've got so many tools to create that space. Meerkat himself could just drop the Suns. Again, Dharmic Pillars is honestly just a no-play zone wherever he decides to drop it. If they just get a slight opportunity to make their way into these Phoenixes, as you said, they are going to melt instantly. But how God of Tahiti's been playing these defenses, it's not defense. It's just offense on their side of the map.
Right.
The second BNB approach that Phoenix line, I expect fully to see 3 blinks come out instantly. Mollusk is over a wall or something like that. Diesel's going to be looking to dive the back line. Sops is likely going to turn into Mast or even Mollusk and continue the aggression there. But take a peek at GTT's positioning. Grouped up as 5 in the jungle. If anyone steps up too far on the side of BNB, they're dead.
Yep. No ward coverage right by that red buff either. It's going to be the minions that now spot out the full 5 of Gone to Tahiti, rotating at least mid, but some over to the right side. That's Diesel who's going to be out of this fight. Left side Phoenix in the eye of Baskin and the boys here up to this point. Out of the fight just for a moment. Is this Jing Wei? If you choose to go now for Baskin and the boys, you're going to have yourself a small advantage. And they sure do. Frenzy is popped down. Go the Dharmic Pillars as well. Mando Warrior buying his Hunter some time to get back into the fight. Pops his ultimate here as well. Azit tanking up that Phoenix. Dazzling offensive into the final judgment as well. Baskin free firing now on the backline. Meerkat has finished off the kill. As Cope is the first casualty here. It's a double kill suddenly for Meerkat on the left side. Phoenix down goes the big bird, and it's 3 members of GTT left on the defensive side. A silence from Gino is going to keep Mando Warrior out from re-engaging the rest of this fight, but full 5 members re-engaging onto that Uzumbo, and down he goes.
Huge
up
ult!
from Mollusk. Diesel finds the big kill, but Meerkat turns it around. It's an unofficial quad for Meerkat. It's going to be the game for Baskin and the boys.
Meerkat's positioning in that fight was absolutely phenomenal. Honestly, allowed to free cast his autos the entirety of the time, but a lot of that opportunity was afforded to him through Uzi. The positioning from him, the ability to separate the entirety of the enemy team, phenomenal. I mean, just clean play from BNB, barring a few minor misplays towards the mid-game that might have dragged that out an additional 5 or 6 minutes.
That's really how it seemed, right? I mean, obviously a lot of our conversations this game were around Baskin and the boys' perspective, and maybe what can Gone to Tahiti do on the defense, but it just seemed like Baskin and the boys were in control from the start. There's a couple fumbled fights maybe down the stretch that pull things back one way or another, but ultimately would not be denied, and you just need a small moment to suddenly engage. That's what Baskin and the boys had here. They remain undefeated over their last however many games. They take game number 1 here. We'll go back to the desk to break it down.
Thank you, Adolson and Mifflin. A great game 1 to start off this set, and a great deal that you all can take advantage of. In that, the final boss battle pass is about to go away. You all know this. The Avatar battle pass almost here, so you got to make sure you get back in there, grab that final boss while you still can. You can unlock 4 exclusive skins. It only costs 200 gems. You get even more content. That's all right now. I think I might have said that wrong. I think 200 gems are in it, but don't hold me to that. Either way, get into the game and enjoy this battle pass right here, right now, while you can. And I'm going to bring Aggro in here. I'm going to hold him to this when he can tell me what went wrong here in this game for Tahiti, because Baskin and the boys were in control of it from minute 1. Maybe a small misplay around the way they played that right side Phoenix push and whether or not that trade was particularly worth it. But I think all in all, this was heavily controlled by Baskin and the boys.
Yeah, as soon as Uzi solo killed Mando 2 times in a
Twice.
row, you knew it was going to be a very difficult game to win for Gone to Tahiti. I mean, Mando just fell so far behind on that side of the map. Uzi was really a force in these team fights. He was consistently frontlining really effectively, and that made Meerkat and Baskin's job a lot easier. And Meerkat really did have a great game on this Ho-Yi, consistently putting out damage, and a lot of that is due to how strong this front line was. We were saying it was going to be Baskin who was going to be able to reap those benefits, but the dive was really there onto Baskin, as you would expect, and Meerkat did exactly what you need your ADC to do. If they're going to focus your enemy, your mid laner, your ADC needs to make them pay, and Meerkat did exactly that. Nearly got himself a pentakill in this final siege. He had a double kill, the 1 auto player that ended up going away the way of Mask, I believe, and then another double kill there for Meerkat at the end. So you knew he was doing his job very well on this Ho-Yi, controlling space, hitting the correct targets and putting out a ton of damage in this game.
Yeah, it really was impressive. You know, I went back and I was looking to try and see some points where maybe I thought that Gone to Tahiti could try some things differently, but truly it felt like they got a bit outmatched at every spot, right? So Uzi gets those solos. Remember how great of a start Baskin had? He was 2 to 3 levels ahead of Sops for the majority of that early game as well. But I do want to give Gone to Tahiti some credit as well, because they made a ton of really impressive plays, particularly Sops impressed me on that Morgan when he finally was able to make it to the late game and start moving around looking for some options. They did a great job defending that Phoenix and right when they sent Uzi over to defend the tier 2, and he kind of got punished for that, and it looked like Gone to Tahiti had found a way in. It's almost the inverse of what we thought. The late game looked way better for Gone to Tahiti, and they struggled early. I don't know if that's by design or not, but it's the opposite of what we expected, at least.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's something that you can expect Baskin and the boys to make some adjustments around going into game number 2, but if Uzi's going to be able to get 2 solo kills on Mando, it doesn't really matter how the rest of the map is going. Right. That's going to be such an easy place for Mask to come and get farm, for Uzi to continue to make plays. Mando's got to have a better early game than what he had in this one, because he was definitely impactful come late game. That Kuzumbo was very disruptive, as you would expect, but the early game was so abysmal that it really put the whole team behind the 8 ball.
And even though that game was won relatively comfortably, might be worth pinning a little bit of attention towards Mollusk as well in terms of some of those early game picks as we move into those picks and bans for game number 2. He did have another one of the only fights that went well for them was on the left side of the map, where Mollusk was able to get a kill on the Mask very early on, and I believe it was Baskin that also fell in that engagement too. It wasn't a whole lot of fights that went well for Tahiti there, but the ones that did go well for them went well pretty significantly.
So that's something that maybe they can lean on to. I don't know. I think it's going to be difficult for sure, but I'm immediately looking towards what are they going to get for Mando in that solo lane, and what is Uzi going to pick up this time around, because we thought it was going to be Amaterasu solo with Nike in the jungle, but again, knowing Uzi's God pool, I think we could have probably made a better educated guess that was going to be Nike for him.
And he made it look good, right? So I think that if you're going to pick Amaterasu and Nike and you got to decide where it goes, no problem with sending that over to Uzi after the way that he started that off with those 2 solo kills. So as you said, we'll have to take a look and see if they maybe try and get something better for Mando. So far, these picks and bans still fairly standard. The Hell, the Yamoja, and the Heimdall are all picks that you do not want to deal with. But so far, only one of those bans is directed towards Baskin. I believe in game 1, we saw 2 from Gone to Tahiti that were directed towards him. So this third ban, if it ends up being something along the mid lane, I would not be too surprised.
No, I wouldn't be too surprised either. It could be that Merlin, the Persephone this time banned by Baskin and the boys since they're in the second pick slot, kind of as you would expect. And the Hell ban makes sense. I mean, we say it a lot when it comes to the SPL level. Once you show that you can win games by yourself with the pick of Hell, it'll change picks and bans for a lot of different teams. It does it for PK all the time with Paul. Shinto gets a lot of picks because they have to ban the Hell away from him at times. It's just kind of the way it goes with gods like Hell that are that transformative for compositions. And Baskin has played a good amount of Hell this year in the minor league level, so what do you know? It gets banned at top number 1 because it is that impactful.
And look at this, a top pick Nike for Tahiti. I guess seeing those 2 solo kills for Uzi could do some things for you in terms of that pick's value, so it shoots up for them. I almost wonder if this is functioning more like a 4th ban even than an additional pick. I'm sure Tahiti can get plenty of value out of it playing it themselves, but I feel like you don't want Uzi to have that.
No, I agree. And I think it's a totally fine first pick, even if it is mostly to take it away from Uzi, because it is still flexible. It is still strong in both jungle and solo. So I think it's a fine first pick. But immediately Gino goes back to that Ganesh that he loves so much, that is really, really difficult for Nike to deal with at times because her damage is often multi-staged. We're talking the 3 hits on the 1, the fact that you have to activate and then deactivate the 2 in order to get your damage off. There's some pre-fire on the ultimate, even though it might not feel like it at times, and that can be interrupted pretty easily by that Ganesh silence. So you feel like this is a pick that the boys of Baskin and the boys were kind of ready for with this top pick Ganesh.
It'll be Ho Yi picked up next for Gone to Tahiti, though. And that's interesting. I mean, we saw Meerkat play this really well last game. I think that you were right to say that he's become sort of the secondary threat at times for them because he really has elevated to that level, or at least he certainly did last game. And maybe getting some respect here from Tahiti. We know especially that Meerkat will fall back to that Jingwei pick if need be, so they must really either want the Ho Yi or just don't want to see Meerkat on.
Yeah, I was expecting Meerkat to just go straight back to this Jingwei. It just kind of awkward for Jingwei against Ho Yi because so much of what makes Jingwei strong in the mid to late game is that she has such guaranteed crits with explosive bolts, but Ho Yi's passive means that he can only get crit once over a certain period of time, so that feels a little bit awkward. Ho Yi oftentimes wants to jump in with the all-in. Jingwei has the agility that can interrupt that. So it's kind of on both sides, kind of an awkward matchup. One that really just probably feels like they want to take Meerkat off of a pick that he was able to control more space with. And so far, Gone to Tahiti have literally just picked the Baskin and the boys composition from game number 1. So they feel like it worked pretty well for the other side. Why not try and put it to the test for themselves?
Hey, and if they are going to be fully just running Baskin and the boys' composition from last game, well, then we're still waiting on our jungler, right? This Nike would be going solo. We don't know that necessarily for sure, but I feel as though maybe getting something for Mollis that he can get even more aggressive on wouldn't be a bad look. Nike certainly can do that. We have seen these power builds with Nike on that ultimate just straight up delete people. But I don't know if that's going to come online quite as often as we normally see Mollis like to operate. So that's one more area where we can still kind of get a good sense of exactly what's going to be happening next. But for B&B, it's only been solo laners banned, so they must be sold in the Nike jungle.
Not too surprised to see the Scylla there for Baskin, but I kind of like the idea of Gone to Tahiti going with something like Ama support this time around. Cope, a former jungler and solo laner, you know he wants to play aggressively, did not really feel the impact of the Sobek in that game number 1. So maybe they just give him the warrior, basically guarantee pressure over there in that long lane, and then pick up something different for Mollusk in the jungle. Looks like they're going to go with something a little bit more similar to what Baskin and the boys had, though, and pick up that Guardian in the Fafnir. Ama loves getting extra attack speed, so Coerce is good there. I think that you've got really good teamfight presence now, great CC, some pretty solid AoE here for Gone to Tahiti as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing this Discordia locked in, but I don't know, man. Kronos and Giannis were both out there. We saw that earlier being picked over some of these quality mid-lane mages. But yeah, I think you definitely want Discordia right about now. So strong, especially with that passive. I mean, I think it's pretty likely with all these warriors, they'll be looking to get active early, at least somewhere on the map. So they should be able to make pretty good use of it.
And it's going to be Vamana jungle here for Mask, who clearly seems to like those Golden Blade changes. He went Golden Blade Ama in game number 1. I'd anticipated Golden Blade here for the Vamana as well. It's something that really is hard to lock down. It's got that great mobility from the 1 and the long duration CC immunity on the ultimate. Discordia oftentimes hides in the little cloud. Well, those giant cone autos from Colossal Fury make sure that she really can't go anywhere in that matchup. So I think this is going to be difficult for Sops. If Mask can get ahead, I'd anticipate Mask making Sops' life very, very difficult here in game number 2.
Well, game number 1 pretty much controlled by B&B. Time for Tahiti to find something different in game number 2.
And Mifflin, you and I had some concerns, rightfully so, about the Gone to Tahiti composition in game number 1. Maybe lack of clear-cut kind of area control setup. Well, they've adopted half of the Baskin and the boys draft from game number 1. Now maybe a little bit more clear in their team fight up to this point.
Yeah, Gone to Tahiti's draft here functionally is going to operate exactly the same as B&B's draft did last game. All the tools that they weren't able to perfectly replicate were picked up through different gods now. Fafnir coming through, going to be able to find that engagement from a range, that dive potential. Discordia going to have that huge burst damage out of the mid lane as well as a huge AoE ultimate to make sure that these grouped up 5-man death ball fights have been happening around the Gold Fury, around the Pyromancer, should go a little bit more their way. B&B, they drafted almost a completely new draft. They still have the Ganesha. They still have the same tools that they did last game, but now we have this Vamana, the King Arthur, the Scylla, and the Jingwei. Functionally, it should play the exact same as well. All those tools are operating the exact same way. Both teams have a form of parity in their playstyle.
Gino locked down, taken down to about half HP up to this point. But I kind of look at what Baskin and the boys have drafted here. I mean, between a King Arthur, a Vamana, and maybe Gino, it kind of looks like two guys who want to sprint at you, and then hopefully Gino has you locked down in there on the back line. And from what we saw from Game 1 from Baskin and the boys, that kind of play style seems to work for the squad and the type of synergy that they have with one another. Let's run you down.
It's absolutely what they're looking to do. Mask is going to go into Big Baby. He's going to step on you real fast and real often. Ozzy's going to be doing the exact same thing he was doing on Nike, except he won't have the jump to close distance this time. This time he's going to scream for Camelot and slice you up a couple times in the air, Fruit Ninja style. I think largely, if B&B play it exactly like they did last game, it might just look exactly like last game.
Sure, fair enough. There is a small difference, though, and that's that Ozzy doesn't have a solo kill just yet here up to this point. Nike, we sort of got used to seeing her out of that jungle role here as of late, but apparently she can control these solo lanes as well. Remember, it was Nike, Ozzy on the Nike, who was bullied out a couple of times, but never fully fell to Mando Warrior, especially against the King Arthur. Mifflin mitigating that early game damage and even being a little bit annoying. Going to be very important to kind of slow down that rotation time that this King Arthur is so looking forward to.
This is exactly how the lane went last game. Ozzy gets forced out early, backs TP's in. A little cheeky speed buff invade attempt there, but, you know, Mass doesn't get it. Mollusk, though, might be in a little bit of trouble.
This is tough. Both solo laners starting to rotate over. Mollusk, a little extra speedy, is going to be able to get out alive. So it's the successful speed buff invade and lockdown by Mollusk there, but does leave him about one level behind of Mast, who's going to move over to the blue buff side and lock that down for his solo laner here. Now we kind of look towards this mid lane matchup. Totally different look here. Baskin on the Scylla, Sops over on the Discordia. Maybe some of the utility similar in both of those two mid lane gods. What do you like there in that matchup, especially in a game where Baskin has been the talk of the town?
I think that Baskin has a lot of carry potential here. The safety that Scylla brings is a lot higher than Thoth, so that same dive strategy that GTT brought last game is going to be a lot harder to execute onto Baskin, which means that maybe we see Meerkat be the recipient of a lot of the aggression come mid to late game. That said, with the direct lane matchup of Discordia versus Scylla, there's not going to be much to talk about. There's not really going to be poking each other too much. They're not really going to be looking to fight each other in the 1v1. It's really going to come down to whichever team rotates in, and then it's going to be the 2v2. Whose support gets there first? Who's setting up for all these huge damage outputs? Who's really looking to force out these relics and then move in towards the objectives? Right now, neither team really has any lane that's going to solo operate on its own.
Look at this collapse. 3 members have gone to Tahiti, move themselves over by Meerkat already. Use the dash away. Stun from Diesel's going to lock down just a little extra damage. But Meerkat's going to get out alive nonetheless. Half HP, plenty enough. Actually going to stick around. Maybe as one more lane, or one more wave rather, being hard pushed. Moss considering hanging around. Purple buff obviously coming up soon. So while you don't lose a kill, you might lose priority on this side of your jungle if you're Baskin and the boys.
With this group up from Mollusk just hanging out, they're definitely going to look for this purple buff invade, but having been there for so long gives Gino time to rotate in, gives time for the jungler and the mid laner to get there as well. Baskin en route.
Now you got to be careful. Gino has that Dharmic Pillars. We've reached the point where everyone in the game outside of Mollusk and Cope are going to have their ultimates ready to go, but this one fizzles out. No big engagement really for either side here. We have now reached that point in Mifflin, that being said, where everyone in this game is going to have their ultimates starting to spring up. We saw what Mast wanted to do on this Amaterasu. Of course, the player and gods are flipped here for game number 2. It was an early gank into the long lane for Mollusk. Another Golden Blade start for the Amaterasu. I know you maybe had some thoughts on the jungle Ama build from game number 1. Is it something you're a fan of from Mast? Something maybe you expect to see Mollusk adopt here for game 2?
With Mollusk's playstyle, I doubt we see the same build. Last game, we saw Mask go a largely auto-attack focus build. He had the Stone Cutting Sword, he had the Executioner, he had multiple katanas. No true dedicated defense item for the Ama last match. This time, I expect we see Mollusk be that initiator. He's always one of the first people into the engagement. He might go for a more bruiser-centric build. I'm thinking Runic Shield, maybe even an Urchin, something along those lines that allow him to move in, be that engaged, and not actually lose out on his entire life. That said, starting off with the Golden Blade, that's going to be an interesting start. It might open him up towards having to go into this more damage-centric build, since he doesn't really have it anywhere else.
It's always tough to predict exactly what direction these players will choose to go. A lot of it maybe depends on Mando Warrior, what direction he wants to go with his build. out of that solo lane. I believe it was a Blackthorn picked up first overall for Uzi last time on this Nike. Mando taken low, though. Always the escape potential by Nike, and Teleria boots as well as the leap will get him out alive from that engagement. So you start to look at a game, Mifflin, that 6.5 minutes through has kept itself somewhat stagnant, and this is maybe what we expect Baskin and the boys to play like usually. I mean, this is where they're kind of like, all right, we'll farm up, get these small leads in the early game, and then really force them through the mid. Gone to Tahiti have something to say about it, though. There's a rotation over to the solo lane. Mastis here. Dazzling offensive does connect down onto Uzi, and Mollusk finds the first kill of this game. Amaterasu strikes for first blood. Back-to-back games. Watch out for Baskin, though, Myth, lurking around the corners.
He is, but no engagement again from GTT. I think they spot him out on that ward there, so now it's on Baskin to disengage safely with Cope circling around. If he sticks around looking for a blue buff invade, this is dangerous.
Yeah, Baskin is alone here on this blue buff. Of course, has the I'm a Monster for that immunity. Actually might be able to turn around some damage. Could be a bait here from Baskin. Cope nearly gets some of his health melted away, but is able to leap out, escape alive. Lots of fireworks so far here, Mifflin, in the solo lane. Is that maybe where you expected some of this pressure to be this early on?
I really didn't. Duo lane is almost always where I expect people to group up, especially considering that's the only place you can go if you're looking for an objective. I want to break down what we saw from Baskin right there. He walked between 3 members of the enemy team, did the enemy blue buff, and then walked out without a care in the world. I like to compare early game I'm a Monster to just a free Beads and Heavenly at the same time.
Right.
And it's exactly how he uses it, just to escape out cleanly, immunes the knockup from Mando Warrior, walks away with a little bit of free farm, and alleviates some of that pressure. Sure, Uzi lost his life, but now he's got a blue buff, and no blue buff matching it for Mando means that as far as sustain goes, Uzi should be able to win out.
It could finally be a tilt one way or another, but it is gone to Tahiti, that strike for first blood just a few moments before that, and as mentioned, it is Mollusk, again, has that golden blade, a little faster on the rotations. Matched, though, by Masked, so you look for some Vimana pressure maybe at this point in this game as well. Kind of continuing that Scylla conversation, I think it's kind of evolved from where it was a few months ago, and especially when you're looking at a player like Baskin on the Scylla, and I think it was Finch who was mentioning it earlier today, and I tend to agree with the mindset. I mean, you look at the Sikkim and Crush combo, and it's all about hitting those consistently enough as maybe the make or break for a god like Scylla. Baskin's a guy you gotta count on hitting that 1-2.
Yeah, absolutely. And barring you miss Sikkim, it's fine. Crush lands, that's still going to be 800-900 damage in the late game. That's absolutely nothing to sneeze at. As well as the passive from Scylla, just going to give you passively more damage once you get all of your abilities fully leveled up. In a build now where it's struggling to find Pen, Scylla's got it.
There's an invade here from Baskin and the boys. Only the Hunters not participating. But it is Diesel who's going to be a little bit quicker on the rotation should this fight draw out. Dazzling offensive connects down onto Uzi. And there's a Sentinel of Zeus as well. Apple spreading to the front line of Baskin and the boys. Masto is going to turn around 1 kill there for themselves. It's a strife to try to lock down the front line offense from Baskin and the boys. Baskin has gotten himself a kill here. Sunbreaker down from Diesel. All said and done, it's a 2 for 2. Keeping Gone to Tahiti 1 kill ahead.
That is nice for both teams. But B&B, despite going 2-2 there, they trade out a little bit more value. They find the targets that already have kills, therefore they pull ahead just ever so slightly in golden XP there. And finding a kill on a Baskin, giving my man a slight lead in the mid lane, that's huge. I don't care if you got a 3 for 1. If Baskin finds something, that's pretty big in of itself, and now he's found himself about a half-level lead.
Yeah, small lead there. It's gone for purple boots over the blue boots on this Scylla, so a little extra power to kind of fully delete you, I suppose, when those moments truly arrive. Baskin and the boys have themselves some decent ward coverage on the Gone to Tahiti side of the map, at least if you're looking around that Gold Fury. And you look at the two compositions here, Mifflin, and we've talked about some of the versatility that this I'm a Monster brings, especially around some of these objective fights. Baskin's going to give his team maybe a slight edge in locking down some of those objectives if he just use it as a bit of an execute.
Yeah, no one on Gone Tahiti can match the damage output, the raw burst potential that I'm a Monster brings. So no 50-50 situations on objectives for GTT, whereas B&B might be a little bit more open towards it just because they have that added level of assurance. That said, the only huge differentiating factor between these two teams right now is the XP deficit in support. Sure, you got about 1 level up in the jungle for Mass, but 2 levels between supports is pretty huge, especially considering Gino's playing this Ganesh, who's going to absolutely shred an objective with Dharmic Pillars.
Right, and that's such a great point. And when we talk about ultimate secure on objectives, and we might have to talk about it in just a moment, as another fight starting to exchange some ultimates in mid lane are both of these teams. It's going to be Gino plugging down the last bit of damage. A stun over onto Mast. It's Colossal Fury timing out here. So when it's all said and done, it's really Baskin and the boys that spend a little bit more here. Cope will transform back, and his ultimate will return on cooldown as well. So maybe Colossal Fury for the transformation there from Cope is all that's left to be said about the small mid lane engagement.
I would still give slight value to BNB there. Colossal Fury means that, sure, Vamana's not going to be able to sit in the fight nearly as long, but Cope, with that dragon form, is going to help out his entire team. Coerce is going to make them all so much stronger. If they wanted to look for any sort of sneaky objective shred, if they wanted to go to Pyromancer or Gold Fury and do it themselves, underhanded tactics is really the only way to do it. Coerce, rather. And then now, without that tool available to them, they really don't have any way in to get sneaky with it. They have to play it very honest. Mass literally just buys his team a little bit of time to continue farming or take an objective fight on their own time.
Baskin looking for a little bit of poke damage there, unable to find it. Likely would have been a dead Sops, though both actives were available, so if nothing else would have been a big utility swing had Baskin been able to connect. Just lurking around. He's going to go back to base here. I thought for a second it was I'm a Monster. I was wondering what he was looking for. The heads kind of sprouted out there and tricked me for a moment, but Baskin safely back in base here up to this point. I think you got to be happy if you're gone to Tahiti with the way this game has gone. I mean, remember, it's an 88 to 12% vote from the fans watching this one. Game 1 felt a lot closer than an 88 to 12 split. And you've gotten yourself, I say only a 1,000 gold differential, but about a 3K experience differential. Maybe you aren't so happy with the way this game has gone, despite the way the kills might look.
GTT's keeping it a lot better. At this point, last game, BNB was firmly in control, solidly. There was no question that BNB was looking like they were going to run away with it. But right now, the next fight that happens, the next 2-man pick or 1-man pick, is immediately going to lead into an objective either way, GTT or BNB. So right now, this is pretty good. As far as gold goes, 1,000, not a big deal at 13 minutes. That 3,000 experience, on the other hand, might come into play at this Gold Fury.
Gold Fury started up by Baskin and the boys. Cope still lurking around. Mast rooted down by that Strife. He's going to get deleted here as the Apple connects, but Diesel is going to finish off the damage. It is Baskin and the boys who snag that Fury here for themselves, but the fight afterwards not looking quite as good. 2 kills for Gone to Tahiti. Executor, the ultimate rather, connecting onto Cope, and Uzi is able to dash through and finish off the damage. Down he might go, nearly turning around. A 3v1 was Uzi. Gets some damage, but ultimately goes down. It's a Fury, 1 kill, but you might lose 4 if you're Baskin and the boys.
Baskin played that fight so insanely well, but Meerkat, not willing to give it up just yet, keeps chasing out Mando Warrior, but he's going to make it out with just a sliver of health. Baskin found I'm a Monster over wall, a 2-man crush, and then a 3-man crush all over the wall without even being inside the engagement, and got Uzi himself a free kill there. Would have lost his life for nothing, instead is able to return at least 1 back. BNB do get the gold for you, but GTT do a good job of not really closing the gold gap, but that XP gap should have closed up a little bit with all those kills in their favor.
Yeah, it's the support gap that's now starting to shrink a little bit, especially when you start to look towards that level 12 mark, and maybe even, especially when you're considering that there's a Vamana against you. If there's a Cursed Ankh on the table, you're going to have to wait up to this point for Cope not only to reach the level 12 mark, but to select that as his second active. Gino's going to bring now a big tool. He's picked up the Frenzy for the rest of his team, so at least for the next few minutes, the XP differential, you know, kind of glossed over when you're looking at level 20. You're like, oh, the supports will get there eventually. But here in the early game, that 1 extra active could be a big difference maker should Baskin and the boys look for a fight.
That Frenzy is absolutely enormous. If he moves into Fire Giant, you Frenzy your entire team, you drop Dharmic Pillars to shred the objective, defense and health-wise. Your entire team's doing a ton more damage. You've got Baskin with I'm a Monster to be that confirmation factor. They could absolutely just look for some early objectives again.
Whoa, what happened there? It's Meerkat maybe with the assistant of Mast getting the kill over onto Diesel. That's a 40-second death timer. That opens up the door, though, for a mid lane dive. Gino is going to silence and dash away. Some safety in the Ganesh pick here. Dharmic Pillars awaiting on the other end. It's locked in a couple as Uzzy rejoins the fray. Mast as well, waiting around the side. Colossal Fury ready to go. Nice double stun from Uzzy. King Arthur starting to control some of these fights. It's only Diesel who's dead here at the moment. Baskin and the boys not shying away just yet. Mollusk looking for the silence. And the up down from Mando Warrior looking to peel Mast off of his jungler. Isn't going to connect, but there's the Colossal Fury. Mando Warrior has to drop down the Sentinel of Zeus as well. Baskin and the boys move themselves towards those back Harpies. Tier 2 tower in the long lane down. I'm a monster, not there. But it's a little damage from Sops turned around onto Baskin. Maybe making this Scylla think twice. Back to base they go. It's kind of a 2 for none and a couple towers in the grand scheme of things. Baskin and the boys pull further ahead.
The only reason BNB decided to engage that fight is because they knew Meerkat had a free lane to push down. They wanted to create space for him. And fortunately for BNB, they are also able to pick up a kill. So now Tier 2 tower, a free kill. They've got a huge golden XP lead. Gone to Tahiti has to do something to close up that gap. It looks like Pyromancer is where they're going to go.
There's a small win for Gone to Tahiti here. Up to this point, realizing Baskin and the boys need to go back. Granted, because their pockets were so heavy. Had to spend up some of that gold. It's a Fire Giant being looked at here. No Fury to maybe sneak away for Gone to Tahiti. If you want to come out and defend, it's a very linear, one-directional fight. Either you get the Fire Giant or you don't. It is a strife down onto Baskin. It's going to get rid of about a fourth of the Scylla's health here. Small engagement in the solo lane. A little bit split here. Are Gone to Tahiti. You have to be careful. You have to really time these engagements properly, especially with the gold differential around this 3K mark.
And Baskin just found out that he could do 50% of Mando's health bar with just Crush Sikkim. Now they have to respect Baskin constantly. No one's going to move up without losing out at least 50% of their health. So what is BNB going to do? Well, we deal a ton of damage. Let's group up. Let's keep forcing the fight. Tier 1 tower looks mighty juicy.
Cope is not going to be having any of that, and maybe should have thought differently. He is deleted by Baskin and the boys. That's a great Dharmic Pillars. It's going to slow the escape of Gone to Tahiti. It's a double kill from Meerkat here. Diesel, fully on the run, has to burn the Aegis, but Mast will not be denied. Mollusk is going to get away. Plenty speedy on that Amaterasu. Mando Warrior just now returning from base as well. It's a 3 for none underneath the Tier 1 tower for BNB.
This instant back tells me that they're looking to immediately move towards the Fire Giant. They could have got the Tier 2 tower there relatively for free. Mollusk had no right to move back into that fight to re-engage. So instead, they realized, okay, we can get a Tier 2 tower now, or we could back up, use this time that Diesel's going to be dead, another 20 seconds by the time they get the fire, and force that fight at a numbers advantage. Mollusk doesn't have the ultimate available. Maybe we see GTT just go ahead and try and pick up an Oni Fury.
Yeah, it was the small delay that allowed that Fury to respawn. Mando Warrior does have to be careful here. And there is steal potential for Baskin and the boys. Uzzy has rejoined. Could be a free 2 for none. The long-range damage there from Uzzy will not connect. Fire Giant does go down for Baskin and the boys, but Uzzy full-on retreat mode as 2 members have gone to Tahiti. A little bit better than the 1 there for Baskin and the boys. So Fury locked down, but Fire Giant traded out. Baskin and the boys net ahead here, 5 members strong.
That Oni minion wave is actually going to be pretty important for GTT. It's going to slow down BNB's push just ever so slightly as they have to address that and make sure they don't lose out on some towers just passively on the map. So now BNB are going to have to separate a little bit, clear out the minions, then regroup and start looking at these Tier 2 towers. GTT's defense is a lot stronger this time around. Cope's got a lot of utility, can be able to engage from a distance, doesn't really have to commit his entire life with that pluck. Diesel's got fantastic tools to keep minions out. Sops is a more standard mage this time around. Instead of playing that Morgan, now he can play from a range and keep poking, trying to find that damage from a range. Group up, keep the minions out as well. Mando has fantastic engage on this Nike. It's going to be a lot harder for BNB to just muscle their way into a Phoenix.
And hey, remember what, 3, 4, 5 minutes ago I'm saying Cope needs to hit that level 12 mark to get the Cursed Ankh? Well, he's finally just gotten there, and it is Cursed Ankh locked in for Cope. So, more utility brought to the table for Baskin and the boys. That final kind of relic gap now closed, as Gino was there 4 levels ago. Maybe one of the largest discrepancy here in this game out of the support role. Tier 2 tower being looked at by Baskin and the boys. Full 5-on-5 engagement. Should there be one. Mando Warrior steps forward, silenced down, deleted by Meerkat. Now it's a 4v5 on the defense as Baskin and the boys They might just be able to walk down the mid lane.
Yeah, good luck defending your Phoenix now.
And that's a great Dharmic Pillars, followed up by the silence. Mast picks up the kill there. 3 members gone to Tahiti, left on the defense. Dazzling offensive, no good. Double kill from Mast. That's going to be the game. Baskin and the boys roll their way through 21 minutes. In Mifflin, they're going to move on to the next round.
GTT was looking a lot stronger in the early game. It wasn't nearly swinging as fast as it was in game 1, but BNB just needs that one opportunity. They grouped up on the Oni Fury. BNB says, well, Fire Giant seems pretty good. And then we see GTT try and put up a soft defense around that tier 2, immediately lose out on Mando, and then the Phoenix, and then another teammate, and then the Titan. I mean, it's just clinical play.
Seemed like a matter of time there. I mean, for the first 7-8 minutes of this game, we're kind of wondering where these two teams decided to go. And remember, it's gone to Tahiti that find themselves that first blood, but unable to convert that into a large enough lead to fully take the game over Baskin and the boys. This BNB team, they haven't lost a game in a while, much less a set. That doesn't change here. 2-0 in the first round of the SCC Phase 2 playoffs. And as such, we'll go back to Finch and Aggro to break it down.
Yeah, I don't think the end result is all that surprising here, Dolson, that Baskin and the boys are able to find the 2-0 victory and continue moving on in the upper bracket. But they're able to do it relatively dominantly, especially here in the second game. Things looked close initially for Tahiti. They were kind of right there with them. It didn't look quite as good for Uzi, but seems like Baskin and the boys don't need a whole lot of time to be able to turn that game right back around, find the win, and close out in 22 minutes. Aggro, what was your read here on all of this? Because it really did seem like maybe this is going to be that better game there for Tahiti, but it is so hard to actually lock down this team. And what about Meerkat? I feel like he's actually stepping up for him here in this tournament so far, looking great.
He's kind of turning on the Jets, huh? He's popping off a little bit these first 2 games of the tournament for Baskin and the boys. But look, I mean, Gino gets Ganesh 2 games in a row. How many times that game did a frontliner from Gonza Tahiti go in only to be met by a silence, straight into a stun knockup, straight into a Scylla combo, into a Jingwei knockup, into death? I mean, it just happened over and over again. No one had an answer for Mask on this Vamana. He really ran rampant in this game. And I just don't know if I love the idea of, hey, this team that's been playing together for a long time by this time, and a team that's pretty darn good, let's just do the exact composition they played against us, and we'll do it better than them. I don't think so. I don't think you're doing it a whole lot better than them. That's certainly not the case here for Gonza Tahiti. I mean, Mollusk, the scoreline looks good, but overall, the impact, not just by him, it's not certainly on Mollusk's shoulders, but it's really just a team effort did not end up paying off there. I mean, just every clip is, at least in these team fighting phases, is Gino silencing someone and someone else blowing him up.
Yeah, I mean, you really didn't even get to see it. The very first clip we showed, I think the 3 seconds before that, was Cope miserably locked down that whole time by Gino, and that just basically was his life all game. Whoever it was that was the priority, whoever could do the most that fight, Gino was doing everything he could to take them out of that fight. And I know we came in thinking that this was going to be the Baskin show, and Game 1 certainly was, but here in Game 2, I feel like they didn't quite need him as much. Much like you predicted, the Vamana was a real big problem for Gonza Tahiti to try and deal with here this game. I know that Uzi struggled a bit at the start of this game, but even on the King Arthur, not the Nike, he still was tremendously impactful here too, kind of just from top to bottom. BNB were the better team here today, but that's only today. Tahiti have plenty of time to try and come back through that lower bracket and maybe get another crack at them. Just unfortunately, it's going to be a long gauntlet to try and make it back through. They're going to have to play basically perfect if they want to get another chance.
Yeah, it's certainly not the showing you want to have in your first game here up against the higher level of competition. Of course, you're playing up against SMITE Challenger Circuit teams when Gonza Tahiti get here through the SMITE Open Circuit. So you know that they're going to have a tough time regardless, but I do think that they're better than what they played today. I mean, they're up against the favorite on the North American side of things, no doubt about it. Maybe the best team in this whole tournament across both regions, but still was hoping for a little bit more.
And I think we are seeing a little bit of a new meta. This is kind of I feel like our only competitive glance at this little teeny tiny mini meta that we've got before things shake up in a little bit when we get to that mid-season. And things are a little bit different than we thought. Some of these auto-attack focused gods, though, just as we expected, are stronger. Golden Blade has changed things for a lot of them, and that's something that you have to make sure that you're, I think, aware of here if you're going to want to win during this weekend. But we've gotten our first glimpse at it. It's not done just yet. One more set to come in this opening day It'll be North America right on the other side of this break.